has been overweight.
At least 1 out of 3 North Americans is overweight. Collectively, we need to lose more than 1 billion overweight pounds. What are the causes? What are the cures?
We are living in an age what I call age of caloric anxiety. We are bombarded continuously by advertising, by notions, by ideas about food. We, at the same time, have cut down enormously in our energy expenditure. I can imagine man in 100 years from now is going to just to be transfixed on the 156th floor in Chicago and just never move out of there for the rest of his life.
Our target is a fat-free society. Is there one diet that will work for all of the people, all of the time?
For many, many years, there was a widespread belief that overweight came from overeating and that there were no metabolic disturbances. The majority of overweight people have metabolic problems. It's just the doctors were looking in the wrong way.
I can tell you that you have a problem that is not going to be solved by one sitting with a doctor. I can tell you that you have a problem that may be with you for the rest of your life. But at the same time, there are certain things that have come along that we can do for you, but there are a lot of things that you'll have to do for yourself.
There's been so many experiments that prove that we develop our fat cells while we are still young. And if we could prevent that from happening, then there won't be as much problem when they grow older.
Fat women seem to be more in evidence, but the fattest person in history weighed in at 1,069 pounds, and he was a man. The fat lady isn't funny anymore. Instead, she presents a serious and complex health problem. It is estimated that some 80 million North Americans are overweight. It could be because we eat too much. We might be termed the snack society, or spend too much time watching other people do things. We all want a fat-free society. There is some disagreement about how to achieve it. As medical researchers study metabolism, probe the brain, and delve the psyche, conflicting theories to explain the epidemic abound. But on the simplest level, most agree. We exercise too little, and we eat too much of the wrong kind of food. We are relentlessly bombarded with the suggestion of food, much of it unnourishing snack food. We have strong feelings about food as fun, comfort, reward, security, mother. Every year, the food industry makes an ever greater variety of food, ever more instantly available. And technology is more and more successful at making us less and less physically active. A billion-dollar industry has grown up to counteract this trend. Weight Watchers International was born when Jean Nidetch went on a diet, lost a lot of weight, and founded what has since grown into a $15 million business. This year, Weight Watchers celebrated their 10th anniversary at Madison Square Garden. Thousands applauded the testimonials. But for many, weight watching, like all the other diets they've tried, works like a yo-yo. They take it off and put it right back on again.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things
Overeaters Anonymous is another approach to the problem. These people appeal to a higher power to help them control their eating.
My name is Jeff, and I'm a compulsive overeater. And I think I've been a compulsive overeater all my life.
For many, Overeaters Anonymous has been the last resort. As compulsive overeaters, They feel they have much in common with alcoholics. Like the AAs, they believe their problem is physical, emotional, and spiritual, and that they cannot solve it alone.
I realized that I used food as a substitute for the things that I wanted but was afraid to get. Most importantly, I used food as a substitute for love. OA has given me love. There are other people in this group who know exactly what I have gone through, what I am going through. They know the anguish, and they know the difficulties.
Most of us know the difficulties. We work very hard at this deadly business of keeping our weight down. Exercise is an important part of the equation, and nowadays it's hard to come by. We have to pay for it. Reducing salons and exercise equipment rip off uncounted pounds and $300 million a year. If you exercise regularly and watch your diet, it may work. For some, it's a solution. But not all of us can afford the time or the money.
As far as I can remember, my mother's dragged me from one doctor to another specialist on weight reducing. They've always said I'm normal in every way except for I eat too much.
My father would go to such extremes that when I was a little girl, he took chains and wrapped the refrigerator with a big padlock on it so I couldn't eat. But it didn't stop me. In that fact, it just made me want to eat more. Yes, I have a daughter, and she's overweight, and my father and mother are very angry with me because she's overweight. But I can't seem to make them understand that I can't do the same things they tried to do with me unsuccessfully to her. I can't put her through that kind of torture, because it was a torture. And I would love someone to tell me how to do it without torturing her. That's all I want, someone to tell me how.
Dr. Sami Hashim tries to do just that.
Tell me about yourself now. When did you become overweight and so forth? Start from childhood.
Well, I've always been overweight, as far as I can remember, except for maybe up to age about 3, I learned tennis.
How does it feel when you are hungry? Like when you feel hungry, what does it feel like?
I gotta have it.
Well, but what do you feel?
A pain in my
Where
stomach.
is the pain? Put your finger on it. Will you hear? Where?
In
Right
here,
there?
here.
Right there, huh?
Mhm.
And what does it feel like?
Or something gnawing at me, like eating me up inside.
Uh-huh. And how much does it take to allay that thing, that feeling? To make it feel better?
Oh,
Supposing you take one cookie, does that help it? How many cookies do you need to help it? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Greta, please.
No, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
No, this is,
I'm trying to think. Usually I get in that thing where
whatever you eat.
I take something to get rid of the gnawing.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, it's not for the gnawing anymore, but that taste is delicious, and I don't know when the gnawing stops.
Exactly. So you don't know when the gnawing stops. That's what I want to get at. Okay. This is your daughter, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well, you have an amazing curve with her.
All right, let's talk about her curves. What was her birth weight?
8.5.
At
And
birth.
5 days later, she was 9 pounds. When she was 5 months old, I wanted to stop breastfeeding her, and I asked the doctor if she'd need a formula, and he says a 56-pound baby does not need a formula.
We're overfeeding our children, and they are getting fat. Overweight children's camps are proliferating, but they may not solve the problem. Research has discovered that some people actually have more fat cells than others, and the indications are that these are formed by overfeeding at a very early age. 80% of all obese children are stuck with the problem for life. And for children, the consequences of overweight can be particularly tragic.
We're doing a big dance, right? And they don't want me in any of the dances.
Would you like to be in the dancing? Well, again, there's something you can do something about, no? You'd like to be in the dances.
Yeah.
You have the physical capability of being in the dances. There's nothing to stop you from being in the dances. Do you feel embarrassed sometimes
No,
with your
I
friends?
feel left out.
Huh? You feel left out. But you don't feel embarrassed like you're dancing and someone else laughs. You don't care about that, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But you do feel left out.
public health approach to overweight consists of re-educating the population in good eating habits. We must eat more to nourish our bodies and less to satisfy our taste buds. Most of us have been hammered on the head with something called balanced diet all our lives. Surprisingly few of us eat one, or even really know what it is. The Nutrition Center's aim is to correct this situation by permanently changing eating patterns, at the same time hopefully preventing the problem from recurring in coming generations.
We try to get as many children in the program as possible because we feel that if we could get them as early as we could hopefully reduce. I know it's very difficult to eradicate the whole problem of obesity, but reduce the number of obese people. Okay, now what about Agnes? Agnes is not doing very well.
Sure. But
what happened?
You know what?
Do you know what did it?
Yes. Because I stuck exactly, in the morning I ate cereal and milk, skim milk. At lunchtime I had a sandwich and milk or orange juice.
What kind of sandwich?
A peanut butter ham sandwich with fat cutter. And then at night I had...
Peanut butter and ham?
No, not together, one or the other, either peanut butter.
We call it a center, a nutrition center. We've had patients, you've seen them, they're obese patients. Most of them are obese. They've been to a doctor, but the doctor either didn't have time to explain to them the diet, so they come to us for more elaboration on the diet. Our main objective is really nutrition education. Even in the obese program, we don't want to call it a weight reduction program. We call it a nutrition education program. All right, well, now Agnes, we explained to you the diet before. I don't know if you still remember what it is. But we do urge you to follow it to the letter, right? You know why? Because as it is, this is basic. It's low enough as it is. If you take out any more from it, you could be deficient in some vitamins.
That's what I was doing.
Some meat, fish, poultry, or eggs. Some fruit and vegetables. Some milk, bread, and a little bit of fat every day. That's a balanced diet.
I suggest that you...
This center does an admirable job. For some, those it reaches, it's a solution. But there are not enough centers. People get desperate about fat, and in desperation, they look for miracles. But the miracles don't work, and the miracle books don't work for everybody either. There's a new one every year. The current champion, Dr. Atkins' Diet Revolution, has surpassed them all. In months, at the top of the bestseller list, it has sold over 1 million copies and stirred up a storm of protest from the medical establishment.
I wrote the book, which was a very honest effort for me to tell readers exactly what I would tell my patients. It was a question that I had seen the medical profession or organized medicine keep stating that there's only one way to diet, and that's by cutting calories. And my own experience, which had numbered 10,000 patients, was telling me exactly the opposite, that low-calorie approach wasn't even the better way. It was an inferior approach, and that the public was being misled. And because they were being misled, I felt that somebody had to lead the public out of the morass of discouragement that comes from not knowing the right way to lose weight.
Yeah, I've been on probably every diet that has been out, and I've had some luck with them, and I usually get tired of them, or you don't get enough food on them. You know, when you're my weight, you have to have food. I think that these diets that say if a person's got to lose 20 pounds and a person's got to lose 150 pounds, they put them on the same diet, and I don't see how they can do that.
You look in the supermarket and you can see that these are all foods that are basically a lot of sugar is added or a lot of flour is added, and they're convenience foods. Sugar and flour don't spoil and make for big profit margin by the grocery manufacturers, and these people would do anything to maintain the status quo, and they have been violently opposed to efforts to improve the nutritional status in this country.
The question is, can we afford the high-protein diet? Dr. Atkins is the first to admit that his diet is not new. We've had calories don't count, the Air Force diet, and Dr. Stillman's famous water diet. The low-carbohydrate diet has surfaced repeatedly for over 100 years. Believers say it's the only thing that works. Non-believers counter, if it's so great, why hasn't obesity been eliminated? If you cut out carbohydrates, potatoes and bread, sweets and soft drinks, spaghetti and snack foods, you will probably lose weight. But is it healthy? And can you stick with it for a lifetime? It was once fashionable to be fat. It showed how rich and idle you were. Now that, in the West at least, everyone can afford to be fat, our standards of beauty have changed. In the face of abundance, the thin look is a status symbol, and people will go to any lengths to achieve it, including having 20 feet of their intestine disconnected in what is called the bypass operation. The 2 feet of intestine which remain on the job simply cannot digest much of the incoming food. You will lose weight, but it's a painful business, and one of the side effects is almost constant diarrhea. Many doctors agree with Dr. Sami Hashim that the bypass operation has not yet been adequately tested.
One operation I have, this is not to be facetious or anything, but is to take, is to have a plastic surgeon sew up the lip of people, you see that? And just leave one corner for fluids. This is certainly a heck of a lot simpler thing to do than all these other operations that are now being done in bypassing the human intestine. What is so amazing to me is that here's one situation where physicians have gone first into the human to find out what the consequences may be before they went into the experimental animal.
The rat that is obese received a certain experimental brain damage that causes the animals to overeat and become obese. The data seems to be comparable to many cases of human obesity in that our brain-damaged rats will overeat only if the food is very good tasting. And it would appear that much of human obesity is due to the overconsumption of very good tasting foods, which is superabundant in this culture.
Carving up your intestines and dieting are physical approaches to the problem. Some scientists believe overweight is primarily psychological, a matter of motivation. Dr. Tony Sclafani's experiments with rats are designed to uncover the whys of eating behavior. Do we eat to satisfy something other than hunger?
The point of that is to measure the animal's motivation to eat food. And we do that by measuring how many times the animal will press the bar in order to receive a liquid drop of food. I know why I think we overeat, but it doesn't help us to control our overeating. I still have the same problems trying to inhibit my appetite.
She used to eat a dozen eggs at breakfast. It was almost a dozen you ate.
That's all right,
Glass of milk.
Uh-huh.
And 2 or 3 glasses of water.
Uh-huh. Yeah, go on.
Then an hour.
The knowledge of obesity is not quite adequate yet, and the obese individual needs a little more attention than a few moments, and such an attention has to be repeated over and over a period of months, weeks, sometimes years.
Orange, apple, anything.
How about these no-calorie things? Do you, you don't like them?
No, they get me sick.
In their attempts to get at the causes of obesity, Dr. Hashim and his colleagues have devised a contraption they call the feeding machine. The patient eats whenever he or she is hungry. A mouthful of liquid diet is released at the press of a button. Each button press is recorded, and the results have been startling. Lean patients tested on the feeding machine maintain their weight. They continue to consume their normal 2,000 or 3,000 calories a day. Obese patients, on the other hand, lose weight rapidly on the machine. They may be eating 15,000 calories a day on the outside, but on the machine, they drop their intake to a few hundred. Why? What triggers the eating signal in the lean person, and what in the fat? The research is pressing ahead. The answers may be on the way.
Why do people get fat? Well, I think people get fat for a variety of reasons. I, for one, believe that nothing will come out without research. Now, the results of research would indicate that perhaps we're going to be starting treating obesity in childhood and during adolescence, perhaps both. It looks as though the normal individual regulates rather nicely. Take a look around. You see people, you know, going 10, 15, 20 years with the same weight, and yet other people having problems. I mean, there is no denying that when you have a lean individual in a nice social setting and you have a table set up very nicely, we all overeat.
What may work for all of the people all of the time is realizing that a diet is not a temporary thing with a chocolate cake at the end, but a permanent new way of nourishment. The fat-free society is only an impossible target if we look for miracles. Using the tools available now, each of us can find his own best dietary technique. It's not what works for your husband, or your sister, or the lady next door. Because each of us is a unique individual, it has to work for just one person, you.